Hi and welcome to this marvellous designer tutorial. I hope you're having a good day. Today we're going to build a dress. Okay, kind of summer dress, you know, straps, that sort of thing. Okay, so I'm going to add my avatar in there. There we go. Just get that out of the way, just centre up my silhouette here. Okay, so we're going to start around the top, and I'm keen not to have a tight top. You know, tightness in clothes is extremely easy in Marvellous Designer, but you know, if everything's tight, it doesn't look very good, does it? So what I'm going to do is start off with the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle just across the front, just to the middle, because I'm going to unfold it in a moment. Somewhere around the waist there we go, something like that, and that's going to form like a quarter of the front, or a half of the front rather. And if I now select this one, I want just to copy and paste it. So right click copy, right click paste, just pop it to the side, and this is going to be our side panel, so I'm going to make it a little thinner. There we go. And then we'll sew them together with the segment sewing tool. So just click there, click across, there we go. Okay, so now to form the rest of the front, I'm just going to right click and unfold with symmetric editing. And then for the other piece, with the transform pattern tool, I'm going to right click and symmetric pattern with sewing. So now we've got the front and the sides all done. So we can arrange these now. I'll just grab these and move them a little out of the way, and press Shift and F to get my arrangement points up, and then I'm going to select on the front middle one. Just going to move it down a little bit on the gizmo. There we go. And then we'll make the back. So if I select this piece, right click and copy, and right click and mirror paste, I'll just pop that around the back and then set it on a rear arrangement point. I don't need those anymore, so we'll press Shift F to get rid of those, and they're not in the way, and now we'll sew it up. So back to the segment sewing tool. There we go. Because it's symmetric, it's added both seams just by adding one of them. Okay, so that's great, and I'm just going to move these backwards a little bit, just to give us a little bit of kind of evenness there. And now if I press the space bar, it's going to semi-attach to her. It may fall off completely, and indeed it has. So let me just press Ctrl Z there. There we go. It's to put it back where it started. Now what I want to do is just make this a little bit more tight, and we're going to do that with the elastic setting. That's what I want to say. Okay, so I'm selecting the lines that I want to elasticate, and then in the properties I'm going to select elastic. No, I haven't got the sim running, so I often turn the sim off when I'm using elastic, and I'm just going to set this to 95. Now this ratio is essentially, if it's 100%, it tries to keep the same size. You know, if you put it at 50%, it will contract it to 50%. If you put it at 200%, it will do the opposite. It will expand it to 200% its original size. Okay, so this should give us a little bit extra, and then just fit it quite nicely. Okay, so let's just pull this around a bit. So yeah, a note on the elastic part of it, I like to keep my changes quite small. So you know, I find it better to go small and then increase if it needs it, rather than just go, you know, really small to start with. Okay, so that's more or less there, except we've got to do some or a little bit of modifying, because we're at an angle here and I don't want to be. So what I'm going to do is select the back piece, or the bottom part of it anyway, and this this kind of point here, I'm just going to move them up a little bit, just until it starts to level up. If I press space, it will adjust. It needs to go up a little bit more. Whoops, need that point as well. I'm doing them at the same time because I want these lines to remain the same. I want them to remain the same length because yeah, that's handy and quite useful when you're sewing things. Okay, so that looks pretty terrible, but that's okay. We'll adjust that as we go. But that's essentially the top part. Now, this is just hanging off her at the moment, which is pretty useless. So what I want is for this to A, come down to a waist, and B, be a little tighter. So if I select the front as well now, whoops, those bits there and the back, and just drag those downwards. I'll use shift to constrain my axis. Just going to drag it down until it's a bit better. Whoops, there we go. Oh, seems like I've missed a spot, missed a point somewhere. Don't quite understand how that happened. Let's try that again. Ah, it's because I want the whole thing, not just that bit. There we go. So that bit, that bit, that bit. There we go. Pull those down until it gets to roughly where you want it. Now, for this particular garment, I want this kind of gathered and elasticated at the waist. I want it to, you know, be reasonably snug around her waist. So for that then, we'll select these bottom lines and we'll turn on elastic. I'll turn off my sim first. I generally turn it off because the default value of 80 is usually too much. So I usually go to, you know, a higher value, and that tends to work a little better. There we go. In this case the higher value isn't enough, so we'll continue to kind of go in increments. Looks like 80 is not even enough at this point in time. Perhaps 70. There we go. That's tucking up quite nicely now. But you'll notice that the issue with the jaggedness around there is disappearing now, because that elastic is just gathering it up quite nicely. So now we have a top, and while it is tight across the breasts, which I'd kind of expect it to be, one thing I used to get confused about was, well, I've taken this pattern, and I've looked at it and I've created it and moved it around, and but it's just too tight, and no matter what I do, it's always going to be tight at a simple place. Why doesn't it look like the photo the reference I'm looking at? Why doesn't it look like this? Well, it's because the model's a different size. The model, or the person that's wearing the cloth, the clothing that I've using as a reference, has a completely different body shape to whichever figure I'm using, and I deeply suspect that's why the default MD avatars generally have small breasts. It's the breasts on a lady that I think makes this clothing malarkey a little difficult sometimes. Okay, so what do we want to do next? Well, next bit we'll add the straps, so I will talk to you in the next section. Okay, so pop some straps on this. So I want to go from the front to the back, of course, and we're going to draw out a rectangle. Let's just click in there. I'm going to make it 30mm wide, and maybe let's do 400mm deep. We can always adjust that, and then click OK. So I'm going to arrange this now just by moving it. So I'll select it, I'm going to rotate it so it's horizontal, and then move it somewhere near the shoulder. There we go. And now I can sew it on. So I'm going to use a free sew tool, I'm just going to click on that point there to there, and then on the front I'll do the same. Now I'm going to zoom in. When you're using the FreeSew tool and you click on your point for the sew 2, you'll notice a little dot pops up. That's showing you the proper sewing length for this particular piece, which is going to be 30mm in. There we go. So let's click on there. That's a really handy tool to know. And then we'll do the back. So for the back, I'm going to start there and go to there. And for this particular piece, this is the back panel I want. I'm going to click on that point and then move out to there. And you'll see it looks crossed here. And if I go around the back, actually it's correct. It's just that, you know, the 2D representation is twisting it, but it's not actually twisted. Okay, so with that done, I'm going to press the space bar and then watch it fall off. Okay, so I can try and pull it up as much as I want, but essentially my piece is probably too long and this is not in the right place. So if I go to the edit sewing, I can select on this seam and move it. So I have to move it a point at a time. So let me undo that actually. There we go. So if I move that over somewhere around there, and then when I select this seam line and move it, you'll notice the dot crops up again. So I'll just move it to that dot and it will keep the sewing in the right place. So I'm just going to right click on that piece there and reset arrangement to 3D, and then press space, and now it's better, but not perfect yet, because my length is too long. So let me just go and select the pattern transform, double click on the middle point to get the orange points up, and that will scale it kind of proportionally at each end. And I'm just going to shorten it down a little bit, and there we go. Oh, still a little too much, so let me drag that up, pull it over, just drop it on her arm. And of course, you know, you might find that this is too far over as well, or this isn't far over enough still. So I'm going to go back to my edit sewing. I'm just going to tweak it around the back a little bit. There we go, and then press space. You see that moved, and now that's sitting on there quite nicely. Okay, so all that work was a pain, but we don't have to do it again for the other strap. We can simply select it, right click, symmetric pattern with sewing, and then just plonk it in on the other side. Just move that a little bit more into place, press space, and there we go, we've got our straps. All lovely. Excellent, so that's a good start. Just gonna try and pull that in a bit. Doesn't want to. Yeah, okay. One thing with the straps is, you know, I've got the size looking like it's approximately right, but I don't want it to be too tight. I don't want it to be loose, but I don't want it to be tight either. So I'm going to click on the display types, the garment fits, and then look at the strain map. And I can see that they're actually not too bad. It's green on the back, it's kind of reddish on the front. That's not too bad at all. If it's all completely red, it's going to slip. It's going to try and pull itself and slide it over the avatar and slip off. So if yours is too red, just loosen it up a bit, you know, do it gradually, a little bit at a time, until it's you know, looking a little nicer and behaving itself. Okay, so that was the straps. Next we'll come on to the skirt part. So talk to you in the next section. Okay, so let me turn my strain map off because that's a little bit annoying. And now we're going to cut the skirt in. So for the skirt, I want to make a circle skirt. So we're going to go to our edit pattern tool, and I'm going to find out how big my circle needs to be. So if I select those three pieces, I can look at the 3D line length, the symmetric line length, and it's 920 millimeters. So what I want to do is create a circle which is 920 millimeters circumference. So I've just left clicked into the viewport there, go to circumference 920 millimeters and click OK. Now that's pretty useless as it is, because that is actually going to represent the hole, if you like, and now we want to add the skirt part to it. So I'm going to select the outside, right click, offset as pattern outline, make sure create internal line is selected, and then we'll give it some distance, and I'm going to perhaps overdo it rather than underdo it. Let's go 300 and then click OK. And when that's done, double click on that interior line, right click and convert to hole, and now we have a nice circle skirt which we can start to sew up. So let me rotate that round and pop that in the middle there somewhere. Doesn't matter if it's poking inside or a little bit, we can deal with that. Okay, so let's start to sew this up. So if I take this as our center point here, that's the front of the skirt. If I click on there, that will confirm. Yep, there's my blue dot. I can start to sew these up, and I'm going to use the free sew tool. I'm going to start the front, start on the front of the bodice part to get the length, and then click on the point that it suggests, and then we can do the same for the side point here. So click and click, and then for the back, so that will be there. That's this one, there we go, that one to that one, and then to there, and that's half our skirt. Now we just need to repeat that for the front, or for the the other side. So there to there, there to there, and then finally there to there. There we go, all neatly in line. That's perfect. So we'll just press space and let that sim. Now I tried to go long on this, and I've failed miserably. We're in toga territory now. So if I double click on this external line, right click, offset as pattern outline, I don't need that internal line anymore, and we'll add another, say, 200 millimeters and click OK. There we go, and now we have what looks like a pretty nice summery dress. There we go. Okay, so what are we going to do next? Well, I think we'll refine it a little bit. We're going to perhaps work on the material. I've got a little thing on the materials that I've actually just discovered to my shame, which is going to help me figure out which material to use much better than previously. So I shall talk to you then. Okay, so this bit I've only really just noticed. So normally when I do my fabric, I come over here and I come down to the presets, and you drop down here and you get all your presets, or you use the open and you've got the names. But over in your library there is a fabric folder which has got the names, and it's also got a whole bunch of other information which is really useful. So I'm going to apply something to this. Well, let's go for a default to start with. So this default has got no classification and no content. Its weight is 300 grams per square meter and it's got a thickness of 0.5 millimeter. So I can drag and drop that onto my fabric. There we go, and press space to set the sim going, and that's what it's like. So this is at 300 grams, so that tells me, well, essentially what the weight is, which is perfect. that's really great to know, because I know absolutely nothing about cloth or anything like that, how heavy bits are or how light something is, so that gives me a good guide. So, you know, I'm guessing this is some sort of cottony kind of fabric. Let me just expand this over. There we go. Whoops, one more. Come on, where is it? There it is. So we have all these cottons here of varying types. So I can see that this woven one would be lighter than what I've got. So I can drag and drop that onto there, and you'll see that that lightened up ever so slightly. And let's try and find a heavier one. Oh, that's even lighter. That's pretty light too. That's really light. That's a bit heavier. What we got here? I've entirely forgotten what my what level the other one was. So this is woven. It's 382, and you'll see that that has settled down a bit. They're quite subtle, some of them, but they will have an effect on what you're doing. So let me find a really light one. It's 193. I'm sure I saw some, it was 100 or so here. There we go, 137. Let's pop that in there. So I'm going to think about it. There we go. But I'm looking at the skirt in particular because that's, you know, most susceptible to gravity. It's probably the biggest and, you know, heaviest part of this garment, and you know, that lightness has given me kind of big folds. Let's go down and find something really heavy. So I've got some denim here, which is 400. Let's try this one. This one's at, oh, that's woven again. No, that's 194. That's 400. So let's pop that in there. This has got some sort of colour component to it. It's actually got some texture to it. Look, that's nice. And then we have a denim dress. So yeah, I've you know, I haven't experimented too much with this, but you know, knowing these weights and things is really, I think, helpful. Let's pop that one up there. Whoops. There we go. So yeah, find your material, find what you like, and pop it on. Actually, that one is quite nice for this kind of thing. It's got this woven kind of effect for it, and that looks pretty good. Okay, so let's just select some of these and set this at a more suitable particle size. So let's take that down to, say, 10. Let it think about it. It takes a moment, you know, when you're, you know, remeshing something. Still thinking. There we go. We've got the progress bar down the bottom now, and this should take some of the kind of crunchiness out of these little folds and things. There we go. You see they look much kind of tighter now, and when I press the space button to set the sim off, they should settle out again. There we go. Not at all bad. This Muslim, it's a little bit, how can I put it? It's on a it's on an image, that one. I might take that image out and just replace it with a colour. So that takes me to the directory, and there we have a little delete button there. Now the normal map is still giving me some texture in there, but now I can adjust the colour, you know, as I want to. So we wanted a pink one. Let's make it a much lighter pink, much lighter pink. There we go. There we are. We have a nice pink summer dress. Traditionally it would be white, of course, or this kind would be white from the references I've seen. So let's go to white. There we go. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. If you have any questions, please ask below. Oh, I've got one last thing to do. Double click on the avatar, and I want my skin offset down to 1, and then sim that. See, that should go a little, just a tiny bit closer to her body. That horrible gap with the skin offset is too high. Should disappear at that point in time. There we go. Okay, yes, so I was finishing this off, wasn't it? Yes, so I hope you found that useful. I hope you like the dress. I hope you get some get some good information out of the videos, and if you have any questions, pop them in the comments, and I'll talk to you again another time.